Attention chiropractors, slayers of subluxation, unleashers of the imprisoned impulse. I am Dr. Anthony Pellegrino from ChiroEdge, and welcome to this week's episode of the Chiropractic Research Breakdown, where each week we break down the most relevant chiropractic science and philosophy to empower you with the ammo and certainty necessary to change your community from the inside out. I'm here with our special guest, Dr. Steve Tullius, who, if none of you guys even watch or listen to this today, which I hope you do, I'm really excited because this is going to benefit me greatly, and I'm super, super excited for this. Dr. Tullius has been in practice for the past 17 years. He has an awesome practice out in San Diego, which I personally believe is one of the most beautiful places on the planet. I am jealous. Jersey Shore is awesome, man, but it's no San Diego. He's also owns Chiropractic which is an awesome company that creates tons of fresh, amazing content, not only websites and brochures, but also workshops and that type of information for chiropractors to not only use in their own practice, but outside their four walls to develop or to distribute the message of principled chiropractic to their community. He's vice president of the ISCO and also works with the Autism One conference, which if you could just tell us a little bit more about that, I'd love to hear some more about that if you could.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Anthony, for allowing me to be on the podcast here and live. Appreciate what you're doing in chiropractic to get the science and research out there to the chiropractors. And so Autism One is a conference that's been going on for 17 years, brings together the top researchers around the world, as well as parents. It's parents-driven, trying to get parents information to help recover their children. And so last year was the first year that I helped organize the pediatric chiropractic continuing education track. So it's coming up again May 23rd through 25th in Chicago, which is, I guess, next week. And super excited about that and the potential that it has to build bridges with other professionals and get more chiropractors helping more kids and families with these challenges.
That's awesome. Well, I know we are all grateful for everything you're doing with that and helping to spread this message. So let's jump into it. The reason I reached out to you was you and Dr. Liam Schubel, who we all know and love, have been putting out, to me, this paper. It's in black and white, not color. I apologize. But it's called The Scientific Basis for the Salutogenic Management of Vertebral Subluxation. It is a list, a collection of case studies, literature reviews specific to chiropractic, specific to just physiology, normal physiology, chiropractic research, osteopathic research, medical research, all just compiled that validates the one thing that we as a profession should stand for. And I've been going through this, and it is just beautiful stuff that I've seen before, stuff that I think is awesome, stuff I'm taking notes on. So before we dive into the material and the content, I think what we got to know is, and it's unfortunate that this has to be the question, I think, but we mentioned your CV and all the stuff that you're involved with. Why did you need to write this and put this together?
Yeah, so I certainly didn't want to do it. I certainly don't enjoy spending time doing that. However, I have a moral obligation to. And a couple points. One, it was really spurred by a situation in Canada. I hope the listeners are aware of this. In Canada right now, as well as in Australia, there's a very strong attempt to limit chiropractic to the musculoskeletal treatment or to the treatment of musculoskeletal conditions. And as you're aware, I have the Unraveling Neurodevelopmental Disorders program, which I help doctors put those workshops on in their practices to help children with these various challenges. And one of my clients, doctors in Canada, received notice that they could no longer give that presentation because it was outside their scope to talk about such things. And so I created it to help give them ammunition. I felt a fiduciary responsibility to help them, but more so the bigger picture to help combat this outright attack on chiropractic as we know it, which is part of a huge agenda that's been going on for many years. I know, I've been in practice for 17 years. Doctors, students, those of you who are not aware of it, there's a very organized attempt within our profession to limit the scope to bring us closer to primary care physician status for third-party reimbursement, and to finally get acceptance, by the medical community in that low back pain, neck pain model. And so this is going on in Canada. I decided I was going to put this together. I had no idea it was going to get as big as it did. And eventually it's going to, hopefully it's going to turn into a full paper that we have published. Dr. Brian Dooley from Sherman College of Chiropractic, a professor there, and also a board member of the IFCO, is going to work with me, and we're going to work to really create the content to go with it, and even more research backing it too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I was, want to kind of dive a little bit deeper, because it feels though to me, for me, I've just, I've been in this podcast and the overarching game for, a year. I've been in practice for 3.5 years. Majority of what I know about chiropractic politics comes from the fact that I had Matt McCoy as a professor in school, and the fact that I am addicted to On Purpose with Kent and Gentempo.
Yep.
But I feel like there's so much of that, me just kind of being in my practice, wanting to serve my community, so much that I don't know and so much that I don't understand, and almost that I want to know, but I don't have enough time because I'm just completely worried about, or in my, quotes, I don't have enough time about growing my own practice. From my understanding, that the attack specifically in Canada is mostly coming from within chiropractic. So it's not like it's medical doctors that are saying, listen, you can't talk about this. It's chiropractic boards attacking chiropractors. Am I correct in that, or?
You are there. There's certainly a medical contingent as well. However, it's very much driven by the chiropractic bodies, and that's around the world. So it's nothing new. It's been going on, and you make the point. It's hard to keep on top of all the things happening. Especially being 3 years into practice, and 5-7 years into practice, and so doctors. We don't expect you to, understand all the little pieces happening, or know every single, thing that's happening, politically. However, we do have a, more obligation to support those organizations and groups and people who are working to, to fight these battles and to promote chiropractic in the model that we understand it to be. And so I wanted to thank you, Anthony, for joining the IFCO. That means incredibly a lot to me and all the other board members and other IFCO members. And our commitment is, when a chiropractor like yourself does something like that, we're committed to you. These chiropractors in Canada, we have members there. We're working right now to create letters to those bodies in Canada, and working on a strategy to assist chiropractic there as well, and throughout the world with groups. This isn't just a U.S. thing, right, or just a Canada thing. We have a big Latin American group of chiropractors growing now. So the IFCO is definitely the group that young doctors want to be involved with, because you can't do everything. So you need these political bodies to help get the message out.
Yeah, I love it. And definitely the global span is something that is hugely important. And so I'm excited to kind of talk to you about all that. So let's just go ahead and dive into the paper. Now, something that I just really liked, because my mind kind of jumps all over the place. And even setting this up with you reading this paper, you're probably one of the most organized people I've encountered in quite a while. So it's definitely something. I don't know if anyone has ever told you that, but it's fantastic, Doc. You have 5 premises of the salutogenic model or management of vertebral subluxation. So the first one is, and I'm just going to read a direct quote from you because it's obviously you spent a lot of time writing this, is that chiropractic falls under the salutogenic model of healthcare, which focuses on approaches that support health and well-being rather than the pathogenic model, which focuses on factors that cause disease. In our team training this week in my office, myself and my team watched all the way back to the great chiropractic debate with Reggie Gold. And it's like, without using the words salutogenesis and pathogenesis, it's that's the conversation, right? And it's so hard. I think the most impactful thing from watching that is watching as he's explaining this. When he first says it, chiropractic is not the treatment of symptoms. It's the promotion of health. They almost can't even wrap their brains around that concept. He has to repeat himself 9-10 times because it's like, well, what do you mean? Well, tell me about asthma. right? Tell me about a cold. And it's just so completely different. And even within chiropractic, a lot of the angry messages that we get from people are like that they just don't get it. So break that down. Like, why is a salutogenic model of healthcare important? How do we use that and still relate to our community to let them know, listen, we're not here to just manage your symptoms. We're just here to promote health, and still be able to like build our practices.
Sure. Yeah, so that's a tough one, in that we get a lot of mixed messages in chiropractic. We hear that, okay, don't talk about symptoms. Others say talk about symptoms. And here's the thing. I've gone through several evolutions in my chiropractic understanding, and I'm sure I'll continue to go through them as I continue to grow in chiropractic. But every workshop I do, I always start with salutogenesis, and I say, we chiropractors, we have this really wild, crazy belief system that you're actually designed to be healthy and not sick, and I say it in that manner because, one, they already think we're crazy, so I play into it, and I use a dramatic pause, that Dr. Liam Schubel has helped me to perfect, and then I say, how many of you have this wild belief system too? And everybody raises their hands, right? Everybody believes that the body's designed to be healthy, not sick. And so it's a real basic concept. Salutogenesis is a fantastic term that now is being used in healthcare, and not just in healthcare, but they're using it in sociological models as well, not just in the health arena. And it's a term that side, the pathogenic side of healthcare can wrap their heads around it now, because it's in their language. We finally have this term, and Dr. Chris Kent is the one who really brought this term into chiropractic, and I think it's a fantastic delineation. We need to delineate, and for chiropractors, they're stuck in the medical philosophy of treatment. We're just my new associate. She's a brand new grad from Logan University, and there they call themselves chiropractic physicians. Everybody's uses the word treatment, and I used to use the word treatment all the time until I understand that words matter. We don't treat anything. We're looking chiropractic in Stevenson's textbook. He talks about that chiropractic is about restoration. That's what chiropractic is. It's about restoration of normal cycles, allowing the body to rebuild and heal itself, regenerate, reorganize itself. And so that's the delineation. And just because the pathogenic model is the dominant paradigm doesn't mean that we have to now put chiropractic into that paradigm. It's our job to help shift the perception, shift the paradigm, and not just try to be accepted by the current paradigm, because we know that the current paradigm is not the full picture of reality. It's showing how broken it is in so many different ways. And so we need to carry the flag of our unique philosophy and our unique salutogenic model, and then the research and everything should be around that, and not in this pathogenic model. And that doesn't mean we can't do some studies that are looking at chiropractic and X, Y, and Z. It doesn't mean we can't go there, but the basic premise starting point should be that we are practicing in a salutogenic model, looking to bring about restoration of normal function.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love just the concept and looking at salutogenesis. And I do a lot of training with the ICPA, and I love their focus. I know you, Royce, I missed it in the intro. I used to be a contributor. I don't know if you still are, but a contributor to Pathways as well. But the emphasis on salutogenesis has been just every seminar. There's something that we're talking about, because it is the model that we're going to, or that we should be. And it's not that there isn't a place for a pathogenic model. I mean, emergency care. I was an EMT for 12 years. My wife is a neonatal ICU nurse, and obviously we both love chiropractic care. We're not saying that that's bad, right? It's just, they're just different, and they're both necessary for a society. And I think that's just something that's so difficult for people who aren't just indoctrinated into, not say indoctrinated, but aren't just in this field and in this see people just making positive decisions every single day to be healthy, that it's just really, really, really difficult to wrap their head around. So keeping that at the forefront of your seminars as the most important, the number one premise in this paper on vertebral subluxation, before we ever even use the word subluxation, I think is crucially important. Premise number 2 is where I start to get really overly excited. By the way, that's water I'm drinking, not coffee, Doc, so don't think I'm going to try to talk any quicker. But it's the dysautonomia, or autonomic nervous system dysfunction and dysregulation, causes degenerative neurophysiological cascades and negative overarching health consequences. Now, I love the list. And from that point, you just have article after article after article after article that's listed. And what I find interesting is that most of the articles that you're listing there don't have a chiropractic author, right? I mean, you can go in PubMed right now and search for like heart rate variability or search for, sympathetic dominance and see everything from metastasis of cancer to Meniere's disease.
Right.
And it's not something that's a chiropractic principle that the nervous system is related to these things. It's just that's the truth. So if you could speak to kind of where like dysautonomia and symptoms of where chiropractic and salutogenic kind of plays into that, I'd love to learn more.
Yeah, the current paradigm is trying to link dysautonomia, hyposympathetic nervous system, low vagal tone. They're trying to link those things to the X, Y, and Z, right? To the cancer, to the Meniere's disease, to epilepsy, to, PTSD. They're trying to, because that's how they do things. And I did list a lot of those papers. However, at the beginning, the first list is talking about metabolic syndrome. It's talking about preceding factor in a host of dysfunction in the body. So now they're actually starting to really, adopt our viewpoint of normal physiology and what happens when we don't have normal physiology. And so we've always understood why dysautonomia or interference in the nervous system leads to or can lead to a whole list and various dis-eases and which medicine then calls various names, because the body's breaking down. It's not organized. It's not having the proper messages, and it's building itself sick and not well. It's really that simple. Now we know through great tools like heart rate variability, which is the gold standard in healthcare, not in chiropractic, it's the gold standard in healthcare for measuring the autonomic nervous system balance and function. And so, I implore all chiropractors to begin to utilize this in their practices so that you can start to really educate the population in your communities.
Yeah, I definitely love it. And for me, that thing right there, this point, and this one of the 5 premises, and as well as the other ones, it's baffling to me in the same way that I assume when a metapractor, and that's what I'm going to call him, a metapractor hears us talk about salutogenesis and we don't treat symptoms, in the same way that their brain begins to melt out their face because they can't handle it, they're overloaded. That is my reaction when somebody says there's no evidence for the presence of subluxation. It's like, literally we measure this, it's not even research, it's chiropractors all over the world use this as an outcome measure. Like it's crazy. It's crazy to me that there's even a thought there. We just see it every single day. Where do you think that disconnect is coming from, and how do we combat that? How do we relate to these people? How do we show light?
So it's coming from, that organized attempt to position chiropractic into a musculoskeletal pain relief, modality. And that started when the ACA wrestled control of the CCE back in 1974, and has been systematically abusing and manipulating a publicly recognized entity, a publicly recognized accrediting institution, and manipulating it and the educational process for market positioning, and so now we have a situation back in 1974, pre-CCE, when 85% of the chiropractors were graduating from schools that were in the vitalistic vertebral subluxation centered model. We now are at a point where that's flip-flop, and now we're at 15% of the chiropractors coming out of school are actually coming from vertebral subluxation centered schools. And so we have a major sustainability issue. We are in a war of attrition. We have been made impotent by the CCE in this process of not being able to reproduce our young. And so chiropractic, unfortunately, has been relegated to being taught in seminars on the weekends. And it's a travesty. It's just it's sickening and saddening. However, I don't get upset anymore with those people. I usually have a couple of reactions. One, I usually won't engage them anymore. I typically ban and delete them from my Facebook world experience because they're just in the way. I look at it this way. Here we're in a profession. We're supposed to be professional. We have colleagues, and if those colleagues are making these fantastic claims, these amazing transformations, restorations, what some people call miracle stories. Of course, it's not a miracle. It's just the amazing restoration and reorganization that happens when you restore normal function to the nervous system. If this many people have had this many experiences over 100 years, you would think that anyone with integrity and true moral values would investigate those claims. And even if they said, okay, well, we don't have the peer-reviewed, double-blind, randomly controlled studies, investigate the claims. Walk into an office, go into these offices that are seeing these changes, these transformations, and really see it for yourself, and then have the ability to comment on this. Most I've encountered don't look at the research. They don't look at anything, and because this is a battle of beliefs, and it's not one of philosophy, science, logic. And so I don't engage these people because I also know that they're typically not that involved to make a difference, and I don't have time for that.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. So I take a little bit of a different approach right now. I actually retarget them because I find it hilarious. So I guess it's, my wife's not happy with the time I spend on it, but that's where I'm at right now. So I'll take up that front right now. You ban and delete. I'm going to retarget.
Well, I will say this, Anthony. I was in the same position, and it was extremely valuable to refine my understanding, my communication, my ability to engage these people, and it did provide a lot of value for me and for other chiropractors that witnessed it as well.
100%. Well, I appreciate you for that. Now, I know you got other events going on, so we're going to keep diving through interventions that address the autonomic function, produce positive physiological health outcomes. Once again, you can look at chiropractic specific articles. You can look at how the medical field is going. Go in PubMed and search transcutaneous vagus nerve stimulation and see what I love there is that they're going from implants. They're saying, well, we want to be less invasive. So let's go transcutaneous now, and finding amazing changes, the exact same changes as these vagal nerve implants. Right. Yet we as a profession still say the nervous system has nothing to do with that, and chiropractic doesn't affect that. But whatever, we'll go past that. You can look at osteopathic research. You can look at all these different things. Basically, anything that addresses the function of the autonomic nervous system is going to see physiological changes. What do you want us to take from that?
I think you nailed it. It's, structure affects function. You start to impact the nervous system, these key points in the system, and it's going to naturally, have positive physiological outcomes. And so it's really that simple. It's common sense, and the science is there to back it. So it can't be refuted.
Love that. And now, after those first three premise, which lays the foundation, we get into improper biomechanics of the spine and associated craniofacial structures, as well as postural distortions negatively affect neurophysiology, health, and quality of life. And I mean, this section is amazing. And part of the reason that I love this so much is that the different models of subluxation that you bring into it. You have studies that are bone on nerve, that you reference. You've got cerebral spinal fluid studies like Scott Rosa, who I've spoken specifically on this show in the past about. We have upper cervical specific studies. You mentioned stuff that I believe Deed Harrison did on cervical lordosis. So, I mean, this is just cool. Just speak to that premise for me for a couple minutes.
Yeah. So, what I found really cool, especially in this section, was looking at, right now, in autism, I'm going to be speaking on early life stress and the impact on the developing nervous system, and even how that leads to scoliosis too. So I found papers on, I wanted to find out what happens, when there's torticollis, plagiocephaly, imbalances, facial asymmetries. And there's really cool research out there from other professions, in the dental field, and also like orthopedics. So orthopedics are looking at this, and what they're finding is that one of the studies said that asymmetries in the facial asymmetries would lead to mild cosmetic scoliotic changes. What we've been talking about for years, compensatory stress patterns that develop when there's an upper cervical subluxation leading to scoliosis. And so I think this is one of my favorite sections because, and like you mentioned, there's multiple models. I have the unique ability to be able to look at a situation from multiple angles to compile the information. I didn't create this research. I'm not a researcher, but I can look at it from multiple vantage points. We have a lot of people in our profession that look at subluxation through one lens, and that's not the full picture. It's like that story of the blind men all touching an elephant, and they all think they're touching something completely different. And so with a subluxation, we have Dr. Chris Kent wrote a paper on the various models of vertebral subluxation. I practice in a tonal model. I used to practice in a more structural model. Now I kind of, in practice, I combine the two and am able to address it from both of those angles, because I believe that subluxation you sometimes has a more structural component, other times it has a more neurological component. You can't separate the two. However, sometimes there's just a stronger component to the subluxation. And so cerebrospinal fluid flow and the blood flow, that's a big piece that I think has been overlooked by a lot of people in chiropractic. I know Dr. Scott Rose is doing amazing work. I love the research that he's doing. So yeah, this is an exciting area that can be expanded.
Yeah, I love that. I actually, this is one of my favorite topics because I practice very tonally. I use torque release technique primarily in practice. Yet my chiropractor I travel to does Pierce results, which is video fluoroscopy, which is Titron, which is all these different factors. And when I see that analysis, when I literally watch pre-post motion restoration, when I look at those thermal changes, it's just subluxation. It's just correcting subluxation, the only possible answer. And it just makes so much sense for me. And that kind of incorporates so many different models into one.
Yeah, a lot of chiropractors have a hard time seeing that subluxation can be addressed from multiple vantage points. I look at it, we're talking about an open dynamic system. This is why Logan Basic works. This is why Activator works. This is why upper cervical specific works. This is why tonal works. This is why all the different systems work, because we're looking for a window into the nervous system and making an adjustment to release that stress and interference at a key location. And the more specific you can get with it, the greater your results are going to be, because that body is now going to utilize that force in the most effective manner. It's pretty simple, but we have a lot of times people want to think linearly instead of in a more dynamic fashion.
Love it. And adjusting subluxated vertebrae is exceedingly safe and has positive neurophysiological health and quality of life outcomes. We mentioned a lot of the research that you mentioned the other sections. You mentioned the ICPA, Practice-Based Research Network studies. You mentioned Heidi Havoc. You even mentioned, this guy right here, yep, Anthony Pellegrino, and with my measly case study, which was really cool, using the Autism Treatment Evaluation Checklist. It was really cool to publish that. This is, there's so much out there that just complements that premise. What do you think? What do you think is most important for us to just get and understand and deliver?
We have very clearly evidence here that chiropractic adjustments positively impact the brain function. We have the case studies and changes that would correlate with that. And I think we need to stand boldly and say we have mountains of evidence. We have plenty of evidence to move forward with a healthcare model that massively transforms lives, and not be apologetic and not shrink when people say, "Oh, where's the research?" But you don't have a study on. What about this study on chiropractic and blank? You don't have that, so you can't see people. We're talking about vertebral subluxation, and subluxations are it's clearly laid out here. They are extremely negative when it comes to health, function, quality of life, and that is what we need as chiropractors to move forward, taking this to our communities and world.
100%. I love that. And it's great in terms of meeting people where they're at, being able to understand and demonstrate that, it affects the nervous system. And because it affects the nervous system, it does affect these things, because the bottom line is that outside your four walls, they're living in a pathogenic society, right? And it's cool to be able to see people begin to have the lights turned on. But in the bottom line is, I used to, like, year one, get upset, or be super happy when somebody got a result, or almost be like upset if they didn't get the one result that I wanted, and just being able to, the more and more I look into actually what chiropractic is, and the more what chiropractic research says, the more I can become more like Reggie, and just say it and boldly say it, and it doesn't treat anything. And yes, some people will see changes in those things, but that's not what the intent is whatsoever. If they don't see changes in those things, that's okay too, because the intent is just allow them to have the best expression of their life to their nervous system. And I have no idea how their body's going to change when they decide to find out. And it's awesome to be able to see the research and the stuff that you compiled really reflect that. One thing, just personally, outside of research, everything like that, I told you I was going to ask you this, because in the little bit that I do, I have a practice that provides for my family. I like to think it's awesome. We're growing. It's cool. I've got the podcast. I've got another service on the side. And you have Chiropractic Is. You've got these workshops. You just told me you've done you and your associate have done 150 workshops in your own practice over the last 3.5 years, which is nuts. You're the vice president of the IFCO. You've got 50 other things that I'm not mentioning right now. I hope I understand the why. Right? But like, how do you do that? Help me be more like that and still be able to be present in the lives of my family.
Yeah. So I do work 2.5 days a week in my practice. So that helps. My son also has special needs, intense special needs. And so even on those days when I'm at home, I'm actually with him most of the time, helping give my wife a break. It is the why. When the why is strong enough, the how takes care of itself. And I feel a deep moral obligation to helping the big idea be actualized. Once you get the big idea and understand that this would, if this were implemented in the fashion that chiropractic were designed to be, it would transform humanity. It would lead to the evolution of human consciousness and people treating each other better. As B.J. Palmer said, emptying the asylums and prisons. And hey, would it do? Would there be no wars and would there be no violence? Yeah, I'm not saying that, but man, would life look extremely different? This is a great question for your practice members. You want to get them involved in the mission. And I ask people all the time, hey, what do you think life would look like? What do you think the world would look like if every individual was checked from birth throughout a lifetime by a chiropractor? What do you think would be different? And the things they say are fantastic. They're the things that we say that I just mentioned. And they know it, right? Because people express life better. They express their better, fuller expression of themselves when they are subluxated. And so that's why I do it. How? Well, many times, this paper right here, it happened by drinking a pot of coffee at 10 p.m. I didn't feel that I couldn't live with myself if I didn't put the best foot forward, because to be quite honest with you, where chiropractic is today, it may not be there in 30 years. Okay. And I made a commitment, to myself and to other colleagues and to the people we serve that I would do my best, with this life that I have here to see chiropractic reach the pinnacle that it can and should. And I believe that it will. I still am positive, even though we have a whole lot of mechanics in this profession. I believe that the research is strong enough there. Clearly, we laid it out right there. I also believe that here's what we need to do. We need to start shifting the demand. We need to create a demand. Right now, there's no demand for chiropractic because we keep feeding into the belief that chiropractic is a treatment for low back pain and neck pain. And so doctors, we get upset when we see Canada and Australia and all these other places putting us into the musculoskeletal box. However, we need to take a look in the mirror and see, perhaps we're putting ourselves in that box. Look at our websites, look at our brochures, look at our posters, look at the message, the primary message we're putting out to the public. And if we're putting out this back pain message through Facebook ads and other things, then really, we're also a big part of the problem. So we got to shift our message in our practices. We got to start speaking out louder, and we got to support the organizations and people that are working hard to protect and promote chiropractic in its purest form. And so thank you, Anthony, for everything you're doing. 3 years out, you're kicking butt. Okay, you're pulling your weight and more. And so, doctors, if you're listening to this now and you're not feeling like you're doing enough, it's probably because you're not. And that just means you need to, if you can't right now, you can support in some ways. You can support something like the IFCO financially. You can give to the Foundation for Vertebral Subluxation. You can do all sorts of different things, or you can give your time. Okay, give up that binge watching of some show on Netflix. Give up some of your time. Drink that pot of coffee at 10 p.m. Those are the things. I'm not saying do it every day. Because then that's when you get sick, right? So, but we got to carry the weight. There's a great quote in The Glory of Going On talking about that. If we all did our part, this would be a whole lot less work to do. So thank you, Anthony, for what you're doing.
Cool, man. Well, I wanted to thank you so much for taking time. Obviously, you've got tons of things going on in terms of your own family life, in terms of your own practice, in terms of all of your businesses, in terms of your volunteer, in terms of I'm running out of breath going through. So I wanted to thank you for taking the time to spend with me. Just real quick, if you could just any parting words, as well as how anybody who wants to connect with you, find you, learn from you, buy your stuff, whatever it is, how they can best find you, and a parting word. And I think we'll let you go after that.
Sounds good. So the best thing, and realize this served me too. I'm about to give a workshop tonight. I'm going to be fired up, because I got the opportunity to share, our love for chiropractic care. And so to find me on Facebook. That's the best way to contact me, connect. My website, chiropractic.com. If you want this vertebral subluxation, document that we just talked about, it's chiropractic.com/resources. And that's there for download. We have a lot of the cool free resources there. And so my final parting words is, we have to take this obligation very, very seriously. We also have to take care of our families too. I get the opportunity to do both. So we got to create balance. We got to be massively successful in practice. That means stepping up, getting over your fears, not being afraid to share the chiropractic story and the truth here, and then become extremely successful so that you can invest in chiropractic, time, energy, money. And thank you for holding the line in your communities.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Tullius, like Julius, the song from Fish. And guys, thank you guys so much for joining. I hope you guys got a ton of value from this. Keep checking it out. Get out to your community this week. Go slay some subluxation. And I love you all.